Mike was going to be married to Jane, so his father sat him down for a little chat. He said, "Mike, let me tell you something. On my wedding night in our honeymoon suite, I took off my pants, handed them to your mother, and said, 'Here, try these on.' She did and said, 'These are too big, I can't wear them.' I replied, 'Exactly, I wear the pants in this family and I always will.' Ever since that night, we have never had any problems." Said Mike. He thought that might be a good thing to try. On his honeymoon, Mike took off his pants and said to Jane, "Here, try these on." She tried them on and said, "These are too large, they don't fit me." Mike said, "Exactly, I wear the pants in this family and I always will. I don't want you to ever forget that." Then Jane took off her pants and handed them to Mike. She said, "Here, you try on mine." He did and said, "I can't get into your pants." Jane said, "Exactly. And if you don't change your smart attitude, you never will." And they lived happily ever after. 2. A man suffered a serious heart attack and had bypass surgery. He awoke to find himself in the care of nuns at a Catholic hospital. As he was recovering, a nun asked how he was going to pay the bill. He replied in a raspy voice, "No health insurance." The nun asked if he had money in the bank. He replied, "No money in the bank." The nun asked, "Do you have a relative who could help you?" He said, "Just a spinster sister who is a nun." The nun, slightly perturbed, said, "Nuns are not spinsters." The patient replied, "Then send the bill to my brother-in-law." 3. "How was your golf game, dear?" asked Jack's wife. "Well, I was hitting pretty well, but my eyesight's gotten so bad I couldn't see where the ball went." "Well, you're 75 years old now, Jack. Why don't you take my brother Scott along?" suggested his wife. "But he's 85 and doesn't even play golf anymore," protested Jack. "But he's got perfect eyesight. He could watch your ball," his wife pointed out. The next day, Jack teed off with Scott looking on. Jack swung and the ball disappeared down the middle of the fairway. "Do you see it?" asked Jack. "Yup," Scott answered. "Well, where is it?" yelled Jack, peering off into the distance. "I forgot." 4. In Ireland, there is a tradition that holds that a dying man may ask one last question and that it be answered truthfully. Seamus had come to the end of his days. His time on this planet was short. Gathered around him were his wife and his 4 sons. 3 of his sons were fine, tall men, but the 4th was. Aidan was a bit scrawny and quite thin. Seamus says to his wife, "Mary, I do not have much time left, so I want to ask you something that's bothered me for many days. Please tell me the truth. Is Aidan really my son?" Mary says, "Seamus, as God is my witness, I swear on all that's good and holy that Aidan is indeed your child." With that, Seamus breathed a sigh of relief, his last breath in this world. Mary closed his eyes, pulled the blanket over his face and said, "Whew, thank God he didn't ask about the other 3. 5. A blonde lady motorist was about 2 hours from San Diego when she was flagged down by a man whose truck had broken down. The man walked up to the car and asked, "Are you going to San Diego?" "Sure," answered the blonde. "Do you need a lift?" "Not for me. I'll be spending the next 3 hours fixing my truck. My problem is that I've got 2 chimpanzees in the back that have to be taken to the San Diego Zoo. They're a bit stressed already, so I don't want to keep them on the road all day. Could you possibly take them to the zoo for me? I'll give you $100 for your trouble." "I'd be happy to," said the blonde. So the two chimpanzees were ushered into the back seat of the blonde's car and carefully strapped into their seatbelts, and off they went. 5 hours later, the truck driver was driving through the heart of San Diego when suddenly he was horrified. There was the blonde walking down the street, holding hands with the two chimps, much to the amusement of a big crowd. With a screech of brakes, he pulled off the road and ran over to the blonde. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "I gave you $100 to take these chimpanzees to the zoo." "Yes, I know you did," said the blonde. "But we had money left over, so now we're going to SeaWorld." These two guys had just gotten divorced, and they swore they would never have anything to do with women again. They were best friends, and they decided to move up to Alaska as far north as they could go and never look at a woman again. They got up there and went into a trader's store and told him, "Give us enough supplies to last 2 men for 1 year." The trader got the gear together, and on top of each one's supplies, he laid a board with a hole in it and fur around the hole. The guys said, "What's that board for?" The trader said, "Well, where you're going, there are no women and you might need this." They said, "No way, we've sworn off women for life." The trader said, "Well, take the boards with you, and if you don't use them, I'll refund your money next year." "Okay," they said and left. Next year, this guy came into the trader's store and said, "Give me enough supplies to last 1 man for 1 year." The trader said, "Weren't you in here last year with a partner?" "Yeah," said the guy. "Where is he?" asked the trader. "I shot him," said the guy. "Why?" "I caught him in bed with my board." 7. A woman walks into a magic shop and said to the clerk that her were too small and that she heard they could help her. The clerk pulls out a magic potion and says that if she drank it, then for the next 24 hours, her would grow a little every time she bumps into a man and they say something like, "Excuse me?" or "Pardon me." So she buys the potion and drinks it. Then, as soon as she leaves the shop, she bumps into a man and he says, "Excuse me." Then she feels her grow slightly and runs off, yelling that it works. And she spends hours bumping into men until she's got a huge pair of melons. But just when she is satisfied with her new she accidentally bumps into a French man. And he says, "1,000 pardons, my dear." The next day, the biggest headline on the news is, "Flying torpedoes kill Frenchman in store." 8. A blonde soldier was on sentry duty at the main gate. Her orders were clear. No car was to enter unless it had a special sticker on the windshield. A big army car came up with a general seated in the back. The sentry said, "Halt! Who goes there?" "Blonde." The chauffeur, a corporal, says, "General Wheeler." "I'm sorry, I can't let you through. You've got to have a sticker on the windshield." The general said, "Drive on." The sentry said, "Hold it. You really can't come through. I have orders to shoot if you try driving in without a sticker." The general repeated, "I'm telling you, son, drive on." The sentry walked up to the rear window and said, "General, I'm new at this. Do I shoot you or the driver?"